don't drive it. But they tell you a lot, they're information rich, they tell you a lot about what people expect. What the yield curve is telling us, what inflationary expectations are telling us, and other factors are telling us is that, yeah, there's inflation now, but the Fed's going to kill it, and they're going to kill it by destroying demand and throwing us into a recession.
Are the statements made by Jim Rickards even possible? I mean, an inflation-turned-deflation scenario? It's a topsy-turvy ride that will leave you questioning reality and wondering if the laws of economics have joined forces with the circus. But fret not, because, first, that is totally possible, and we will delve into that with the help of an economic expert and business mogul, Jim Rickards. First and foremost, what are these contrasting terms? What is inflation? How about deflation? Inflation is when your favorite snacks at the grocery store start playing hard to get, as if they're dancing just out of reach. And that shiny new gadget you've been eyeing? Well, it seems to have grown wings and flown off to a luxury island, leaving your wallet in tears. So in a nutshell, inflation happens when the cost of producing goods and providing services increases, and those increased costs get passed on to you, the consumer. So you end up paying more for your favorite snacks, clothes, or even a night out with friends. What about deflation? Well, folks, while inflation makes prices go up, deflation is the trickster that loves to bring prices down like a magic act gone wild. In a deflationary environment, your money gains some superpowers. Suddenly, you find that you can stretch your budget further because the cost of living, products, and services are falling. That gadget you've had your eye on might be available at a lower price, or you may even find great deals at the grocery store. But hold on, because deflation isn't all sunshine and rainbows. Just like its sibling inflation, too much deflation can cause trouble. When prices keep falling, people tend to delay their purchases, thinking they can get an even better deal later. This can slow down the economy and create a chain reaction of reduced production, job losses, and overall economic hardship. Now, going back to what Jim Rickards have said, the inflation that's happening now can suddenly turn into deflation, and here's how.
Sure, that is my view. I'm happy to explain it. And it catches a lot of people by surprise. They're like, wait a second, Jim, it's inflation. You just look at 2022, starting in January, it was kind of like 7%. And then it was, it's 8.1, it's 8.6, now it's 9.1, which is true. That is this year. It is going up. So people extrapolate that. And again, there is this comparison to the 70s. By the way, I think the situation we're in today is very different from the 1970s, and I'll explain why. But, we'll explain why right now, because in the 70s, it was triggered from the supply side with the late 70s because there's two different embargoes. So that's coming from the supply side. But what happened was the other source of inflation is on the demand side. So you have what's called cost push inflation. That's where supplies choked off, or there's an embargo, or there's a shortage, natural disaster, a lot of things. It's coming from the supply side, and demand is inelastic, so you just pay up or kind of do without.
Jim Rickards points out that the current inflationary environment differs from the situation in the 1970s. During that period, the inflationary pressures were primarily triggered by supply-side factors. In particular, the Arab embargo in 1973, when oil-producing countries reduced oil exports to countries supporting Israel in the Yom Kippur War, led to a significant increase in oil prices. This sudden supply shock caused a surge in production costs across various sectors, subsequently resulting in a rapid increase in overall prices. Well, it surely left a lot of people scrambling to catch their breath as prices soared to the skies. The supply-side inflation of the 1970s, driven by the disruption in oil supply, had a profound impact on the global economy. Prices of energy-related products skyrocketed, leading to higher transportation costs, increased manufacturing expenses, and elevated costs for consumers. This inflationary spiral created a challenging economic environment characterized by stagflation, a combination of stagnant economic growth and high inflation. Contrasting that historical context with the present, Jim Rickards suggests that the current inflationary pressures stem from demand-side factors, leading to what is known as cost-push inflation. Demand-side inflation occurs when an increase in consumer demand outpaces the economy's capacity to supply goods and services, thereby putting upward pressure on prices. During periods of robust economic growth, consumer demand often surpasses the available supply, which can lead to inflationary pressures. In the current scenario, various factors contribute to the high demand for goods and services, including fiscal stimulus measures, low interest rates, pent-up consumer demand, and increased government spending. As a result, prices rise due to the increased demand and subsequent competition for limited resources and supplies. However, Jim Rickards cautions that this demand-driven inflationary environment may eventually give way to deflationary forces. While inflation is prevalent now, there are factors that suggest a potential shift towards deflation. These factors could include a slowdown in economic growth, excessive debt burdens, changes in consumer behavior, or a contraction in demand. For instance, if the pace of economic growth decelerates, it may result in reduced consumer spending and weaker demand for goods and services. This decline in demand could lead businesses to lower their prices in an attempt to attract customers, thereby triggering a deflationary cycle. Looks like businesses are desperately dropping prices like a skydiver without a parachute. Furthermore, the substantial levels of debt accumulated by governments, corporations, and individuals can also contribute to deflationary pressures. When debt burdens become unsustainable, individuals and organizations may face financial difficulties, leading to decreased spending and investment. This reduction in economic activity can result in falling prices and deflation. Changes in consumer behavior can also play a role in shifting the tide from inflation to deflation. If consumers anticipate future price decreases or economic instability, they may delay their purchases, waiting for better deals. This behavior can further depress demand and push prices down, potentially fueling a deflationary environment. While some experts, like this of Jim Rickards, explained the transition from inflation to deflation straightforwardly, some experts also recognize that this transition is far from simple. For them, the reality is that this shift is a complex and dynamic phenomenon that is influenced by a multitude of economic factors. Attempting to predict such transitions with absolute certainty is an arduous task, as they depend on a wide range of variables that can change rapidly. Predicting this is like juggling flaming swords blindfolded while riding a unicycle on a tightrope, don't you think? But moving on, one of the key factors that contribute to the complexity of this transition is the influence of monetary policy. Central banks play a vital role in managing inflation and deflationary pressures through their control over interest rates and money supply. However, the effectiveness and timeliness of their policy actions can vary, and unexpected events can disrupt the anticipated outcomes. Additionally, fiscal measures such as government spending, taxation, and stimulus packages can either stimulate demand and potentially lead to inflation or act as stabilizing factors to mitigate deflationary pressures. The interplay between fiscal policies and their outcomes adds another layer of uncertainty to the transition process. Unforeseen events are yet another wildcard in this complex equation, according to some people too. Economic shocks, natural disasters, political instability, or unexpected technological advancements can disrupt the normal course of economic trends. These events have the potential to rapidly change the trajectory of inflation or deflation, making it even more challenging to accurately forecast the transition. The perspectives offered by Jim Rickards regarding the transition from inflation to deflation, along with the counterarguments raised by other experts, highlight the complexity and uncertainty surrounding this economic phenomenon. While Rickards emphasizes the different sources of inflation between the 1970s and the present, attributing the current inflationary pressures to demand-side factors, other experts contend that predicting the precise transition from inflation to deflation is a challenging task due to various economic factors and unpredictable events. Flexibility and agility are crucial in managing the potential risks associated with the transition from inflation to deflation. What do you think about this topic? Let me know in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Finance Soon channel. I'll see you in the next video.